The government have now announced even more support for people during the cost of living crisis with regard to energy costs and actually the cost of living. Further grants are coming out to various different people. Now, some might recall, no matter if you haven't seen it, but I did a video earlier in the year trying to explain the scheme where the government have asked us to help people through paying money to those that pay council tax. And at the time I said that was slightly confusing, and now we've got 5 or 6 more grants on top. So forgive me, it's going to be one of those longer videos, but I want to explain throughout what the different schemes are, who's eligible for them, what money is available, and how you will receive that money. And that latter bit seems to be the thing I'm getting the most questions on. So let me cover off again the first scheme, which some are referring to as a council tax rebate. It isn't, it's not a discount on the council tax bill, it's the government deciding that we can pay money through to people in different houses and properties and types. Now, I'll come on to cover off those criteria. But in the first instance, how do we get the money to you? So those that pay us by direct debit, the theory would go, we can reverse the payment and just send it back to you. And indeed, for about 83% of those people that pay by direct debit, we've been able to do that, and the money should appear in people's bank accounts, and you'll be receiving a letter to confirm that we've done that. Why are there 17% missing? Well, properly, the government are asking us to combat fraud, to ensure there's none there, and I'm happy to do that. But that does mean that perhaps if the name on the bill doesn't meet the name on the bank account, or certain information doesn't quite tally, then the system just pushes the payment back to us. So in those circumstances, we are writing again and making contact, and we'll need to be in touch with you just to tally things to ensure those payments can be made. But it's going to take a bit longer and it's more complex. But don't worry, we're front loading this. The money hasn't all come through from the government. We'll just make sure it happens and be repaid at the relevant time. If you don't pay by direct debit, obviously we've got no payment details for you at all, so we can't just immediately communicate. We've written to all of those households, and we're literally right now writing again. I'm aware that some people in parts of the district thought the first letter was a scam, and there are scams going out, so well done for being vigilant, but it wasn't. And a good number have got in contact, and we're up to about 75% of payments, including both schemes at present. However, it was clear to us we need to try and simplify this as much as possible. So this second letter is again pointing out to you you are eligible and informing you how to get in touch with us if you wish, but it's going to have a barcode on, which is one way of identifying it's definitely from us. And that's because we've partnered up with the post office, meaning that if you go along with your letter and the barcode and 2 forms of identification, which will be explained in the letter, their passport, driving licence, maybe even your council tax bill, they then can give you the £150 in cash rather than the other process. So through both of those, contacting us, or through that, if you can't get to a post office, get in touch with us and we'll see what we can do over the telephone. But that is probably the best way of getting the money to you as quickly as possible. So I want to cover off the different categories on these as well, because of these 7 schemes the government have done, they're all directed at people on either different forms of benefits or in specific types of property. And that's where there's quite a lot of confusion. And I share that confusion, but the objective is sound, to get as much money to people most in need as possible. So let me now, it's coming up on screen, just cover off the different categories and criteria as to who's eligible for what and what you'll get. So in the first instance then, on this council tax energy bill rebate as it's called, it's a £150 one-off payment to those people living in households in council tax bands A to D. And it'll say that on your council tax bill if you're not sure which those are. Now, if you live in a band E property and you receive a disabled band reduction, you are also eligible for that £150. And you'll know that again from your bill as to whether there's that eligibility. There's then an element of this called discretionary funding. And what that is the government have issued some money but asked different councils to tailor it to best suit their locality. So we've done that and looked into the information we've got. And the best way of helping people here is it's for those in receipt of council tax support. And again, you'll know if you are one of those persons, it's a means of discount, a form of benefit support. So if you receive council tax support and you're living in a property in bands E through to H, you will also receive £150. And households in receipt of council tax support in bands A and through to D, and band E, where disabled band reduction is awarded, will receive an additional £28, so that's on top of the £150 if you receive council tax support. And that's how we're disseminating that discretionary information. So keep an eye out for the letters coming through from us, please. Get in contact as suggested, or go through to the post office, or ring us as you're struggling with this. Like I say, we're at 83% of the payments. I'm keen to get that to 100% as soon as possible. And now we'll move on to the other schemes that are being made available to us. The first of these schemes then is the £400 Energy Bills Support Scheme. Okay, now that's to all households who are paying energy bills. And that's in addition to what I've just described. It's not being repaid, so some might remember earlier schemes from the government where it's sort of a loan, if you like, that was repaid over 5 years. This is now a £400 discount in effect on your energy bills. So this will be delivered by your energy supplier, not us. So if you have a domestic electricity meter, that will be applied in that way. Direct debit and credit customers will have it credited to their account, and those prepayment meters, the money will be applied to the meter via a voucher or directly. So that one again, slightly difficult to look out for. It will be a discount on bills, and this should be occurring from October onwards. Okay, so not immediate, it will be occurring in the run up to winter in effect. The next scheme then is the £650 cost of living payment. Now that's going to households on means tested benefits, and it's going to be paid in 2 instalments to all of those households receiving the following benefits, and they're all up on screen, but universal credit, income-based job seekers allowance, income-related employment and support allowance, income support, working tax credit, child tax credit, and pension credit. Now you will receive those payments therefore either from the Department of Works and Pensions, DWP, or our favourite, Her Majesty's Revenues and Customs, HMRC. It's going to come in 2 lump sums, the first from around about July and the second in the autumn, again to spread those payments to support people when they most need it. And for those on tax credits, it will follow shortly after each of those payments to avoid duplicate payments being made. The next scheme is the £300 pensioner cost of living payment. And this is an additional £300 one-off payment made to all pensioner households. And that's for those in receipt of the winter fuel payment, and it's in addition to what you'd normally get. So again, that will come through to you in the means of payment you'd ordinarily have for the winter fuel payment. Then we've got another scheme, the £150 disability cost of living payment. Now what's this? It's a one-off payment made on top of any other payments received, so on top of anything I've just described, which will be made from September onwards, and that is to people who receive disability living allowance, personal independence payment, attendance allowance, Scottish disability benefits, armed forces independence payment, constant attendance allowance, and war pension mobility supplement. So again, government identifying different categories of people requiring that support. And then the final scheme is the household support grant. And the allocation process is due to be finalised shortly on all of this, but the fund will be allocated towards rising costs of food, energy and water bills, and that scheme is going to be developed and worked up, and that will be delivered by our colleagues at Nottinghamshire County Council. So more information will come forward as the criteria is known and how that can be received, and we'll ensure that we do some information on that as well. But again, let's welcome further support coming forward. So hopefully, as best I can, that's tried to cover off some of the confusion, and you'll realise with all those different schemes and different people that are eligible in different ways, it does seem confusing. So what I've tried to do there is just put up the information to help you identify will you be eligible, give you an idea what the amounts are, roughly when you'll get them, and from whom. So I hope that has lifted some of the confusion I know that exists. Apologies again, it's a long video, no choice on that, but that final plea, please, if we've written out to you and we need some further information from you, or asking you to act in some way to help us get our £150 across to you, please respond to us and help us. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to ensure that you get that money. So great news, the government are doing all they can in these very different times. I hope you're doing well, and I hope that these different schemes support you in the ways they're intended to. Thanks for your time.